Hello, and welcome to our panel for Unfortunately Required Reading on the Stay Inside Con.
Yes, hello, welcome everyone. This is actually our first panel. I'm quite excited. We are a literature podcast that marries cocktail, sass, literary analysis all into one beautiful package. For many of you, this may be your first time hearing of us, so we decided that it would be a good idea for us to introduce ourselves. My name is Amanda. I am a writer, English major, and as you can tell, very, very attractive cosplayer. Who has been in the media criticism and literary space for a few years now. I am joined by my beautiful and fantastic co-host, Victoria.
Hi, as Amanda introduced a little bit already, my name is Victoria. I am the editor-in-chief for Fangirl Nation. Amanda and I are also co-hosts on this podcast, and then I run a podcast called Texas Slang for Crazy. Huge nerd, been a nerd for a long time, and you can definitely see that everywhere in pretty much every area of media that I touch. So
yeah, same. We're both giant nerds. Actually, my column is with Fangirl Nation, so I am very, very happy to be doing this. I'm happy to be here supporting Stay Inside Con because I'm sure, as many of you are aware, there's a pandemic happening.
We're going to try to distract you a little bit from that with our magic.
Which was not planned to say in unison.
So we've been keeping what we're doing a secret for, God, we've been planning this since January.
Yeah, I was going to say like literally months.
Yeah. We were going to be in full costume.
Yes.
Amanda is mostly in full costume. I am wearing a sweater.
Oh, I'm sorry that the sweater is off.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the fact that I couldn't find my really cool Slytherin overlay this morning and dug through the entire closet trying to find it and was like, why?
I was about to I've been in a wig for 2 hours. We were about to fight. I was like, I'm sorry that my cardigan is still in my closet for me sitting on my own sofa.
It's too hot.
Like, it's 69 in my apartment. I'm fine.
Like, this is coming off in a little bit. We are covering Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yes, which we chose very intentionally because while we recognize that we're normally a literature podcast, we also have been asked to do a little more media criticism and such like that, so branching into movies and such. And considering that this is a convention full of nerd stuff, we've decided to cover what I think confirmed is our favorite Harry Potter movie.
Yes. This is my favorite Harry Potter movie. It's combined as far as books with Order of the Phoenix.
I think Chamber of Secrets and Prisoner of Azkaban are my favorite books. I think Prisoner of Azkaban is my favorite movie. So, which means if you have been living under a rock or have been in Azkaban all this time and you have no references to Harry Potter, there might be some spoilery stuff, but for the most part, we're kind of going to barrel through assuming that most of you are aware at least what Harry Potter is or the machinations surrounding Harry Potter. I'm going to set up a counter for Tori to see how many different times I change wands because at my side I have 3. I have 2 replicas of Draco Malfoy's because I made one for Malfoy and one for his son.
Oh, for Scorpius.
Scorpius is his, yes. Yeah. Scorpius Hyperion, which is his name.
Which is Hyperion I can get behind. Scorpius kind of just sounds like a really bad villain name.
Almost like that was the point.
But then he's not a villain. Anyway.
So we'll see how, and I have another wand that was from just like general house nonsense. So I'm going to set a counter for Tori to see how many times that I change wands because I like having pointing sticks apparently, and I can't be trusted.
I only have the one right now. The rest are in the library where we normally record.
Yes.
But at this point in time, I'm like, we're going to stay inside. I'm going to get comfortable on my bed and sit with my fabulous Disney replica painting.
I am in my living room in a wig, which is usually something that only happens when explicit things are about to happen. So,
my head is just your goodbye horses.
Like, typically, if I am in my living room in a wig, something else is about to happen. I don't wear wigs around the home very often unless I'm doing like a series of cost tests. And yes, I did just move my front fringe with my wand.
Something I do want to point out before we get into this, we are not really a child-friendly podcast. We swear a lot. We talk, sorry,
Yeah,
I
we
moved
do.
like 40 different times to get comfortable. We talk about things that aren't necessarily clean. So if you've got any
Yes.
little ones watching with you and you don't
Yeah.
want them to know about the horrors of the world just yet,
Yes.
go ahead and start Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban in the corner where they can't hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we're like older teen safe because I mean, like, let's be real, most older teens have heard much worse by now.
Yeah.
Am I a bad influence?
No,
I say dressed as Draco Malfoy.
I'm a terrible influence to my stepdaughter, so I think we're okay.
So I would say that we're older teen safe. We'll try not to get super triggery. This is also a good time if this is your first time hearing us. We do talk about our personal lives. So if not happy childhoods or anything like that don't do it for you, we understand. But also, why are you watching Harry Potter if not happy childhoods don't do it for you?
Yeah, basically one of the worst childhoods of all time. Your parents die, you get dropped off on the doorstep of incredibly abusive parent or adoptive parents,
which we'll talk about. So that's a little bit upfront about us, but we do have a good time. Like we sound like horrible downers, but we do have a good time, which leads us into a segment that we would not have been able to do live, but we get to because we're recording, which is we have cocktails and we have cheese. Now, again, we do not condone drinking for those who are underage, which means that if you want to make a virgin version of Harry Potter's butterbeer, one, you can actually buy it as a soda. It's just butterscotch soda, or get good cream soda. It's the exact same.
I splurged a little bit, / it was the only place I could find where I could do curbside yesterday. We have a liquor store out in South Texas called Specs. I was able
Specs.
to get
I love Specs.
Same. I did the drive up. The lady was super nice, and she had her mask on. And she's like, "You have a good day, sweetie." And I couldn't figure out why she sounded like I looked homeless, and then I realized it was because I had no makeup on. I was in pajamas, and I clearly hadn't washed my hair in a day, and I was going, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like,
so there's a Jenna Marbles meme that is I have 3 looks and that's it. I have a homeless man, a 12-year-old boy, and a hooker. And like I've never related to something more on a molecular level because I also have 3 looks, which is a homeless man, a 12-year-old boy, and a hooker. Like that's my level of fashion. But I went to Specs and I picked up the necessary ingredients, which you can mix up the proportions as you wish. But for the dirty adult version of butterbeer, you will need good cream soda. I use A&W, butterscotch liqueur, and vanilla vodka. I have mine in a Slytherin pint glass. You can add whipped cream or you can make it a float. I've seen a lot of versions that make it a float. I think making it a float sounds delicious, honestly. Maybe if you have like butterscotch ice cream, because fun fact, I love butterscotch.
So mine is in my little Harry Potter mug because I have to point out that I was a badass and a couple years ago got to go to the park in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert, don't go in September. Even if you think it's going to be cold, it's not going to be cold. You're just going to be miserable. You're going to be surrounded by kids who still haven't gone back to school, and you're going to end up screaming at the person you came with going, "I hate this. I just want to be a Slytherin. Why is this so hard?"
Or what you're going to do is message your friend who's sitting at home and say those exact same things, which is what Tori did to me, in which she messaged me and was like, "Tell these kids to leave.
Tell them to go home. This is my park now." Yeah, I knew something was wrong when I walked into the Hogwarts castle and the Salazar Slytherin portrait was like, "There are too many people here. We have to be very careful about who we let into the school." And I was like, "You go, boy." And then I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm going to go check out now. Thank you."
Now, since we are not in person, you get to answer a food trivia question.
Uh-oh.
What is the difference between caramel and butterscotch?
Isn't caramel just basically burnt sugar and butterscotch involves butter?
No.
Okay, I don't know then.
So the difference between the two is usually the type of sugar used. So most caramels are rooted in white sugar, while most butterscotches should be rooted in brown sugar.
Oh, so just that little touch of molasses then.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Because technically you can make a caramel by just putting sugar in a pan and watching it melt. Like, you
I've
can
done
do
that
that.
before.
I don't like doing that, but you can do that. And then in theory, both also should involve butter, in theory, or heavy cream. Fun fact, again, if this is your first time with us, I'm very bougie, hence why I'm sitting in my sofa in a blonde wig. Which leads us into the second part of our usual podcast, which we would not be able to indulge in if we were live in front of you all, which is, I have cheese, I have gummy Harry Potter creatures, and I have chocolate because Remus Lupin.
I went crazy and made a pumpkin pasty this morning. There's
I'm
more
so proud.
downstairs.
I'm so proud. The cheese I have is I have Snorfisk. It's an 80-20.
I just want to be like, excuse you? Like, let's
Snorfisk is an 80-20, I think it's goat's milk and regular cow's milk spreadable cheese. And I absolutely love it because I usually don't like goat cheese, but it's basically like a super, super, super tangy cream cheese, which is just adding into the whole cream, Harry Potter, vaguely pagan. I'm excited about the gummy creatures. I don't know what gummy creatures I got. I think this is a phoenix of some kind. It's a very derpy phoenix, I think.
Melted Harry Potter phoenix.
Yeah, and then I think this is supposed to be an owl? An owl or a bat?
Like an owl or a bat, yeah, I can't really tell.
Well, we will tell. Okay, so hold on. I did not read the package, just like most Slytherins. So, a magical creature inspired by the world of Harry Potter awaits you. Choose from Buckbeak, Fluffy, Hedwig, and a giant spider in one of our 4 charming flavor combinations: cherry lime, lime orange, cherry blueberry, blueberry lime.
Question, isn't the giant spider just Aragog?
The spider apparently has no name now.
What?
They retconned the spider.
He sure as heck had a name when he was after Ron and Harry and gonna eat him.
This is made by Jelly Belly, is a product of Thailand, and is peanut free.
Well, that's good, because peanuts would kill you.
They would kill me. So I'm assuming this is actually supposed to be Hedwig.
Okay.
Which means that this is Buckbeak. Which is appropriate!
Which is super appropriate!
I did it! I'm gonna eat the fuck out of this hippogriff. I've already sworn, I'm sorry.
We gave the warning.
We did give the warning, but as Draco Malfoy, I'm going to seek revenge and I'm going to eat the ever-loving shite out of this hippogriff.
I apologize in advance for all the crap talk I'm going to do about Draco Malfoy then.
I don't apologize, because that's one of the reasons why I cosplay as him, is because I like being a better version of the man that he was never allowed to be. I said that too quickly. I'm sorry.
Too quick. So, I've had a little bit of butterbeer. I can still say butterbeer, so clearly I'm not into my cups. We're going to start with short story long. So this is the segment we do at the very beginning where we give you the breakdown of the story as a whole in synopsis form, with minor commentary.
Minor?
A lot of commentary. So something to keep in mind, we, like I said, we're basing this one off of the movie versus the book.
Yes.
Don't worry, book people. I have a whole section on differences between them, so you've got a little bit of backup if you're sitting there going, no, the book is always better. I'm there for you.
And I think you're wrong in this instance.
I honestly still think the book is better than the movie, but
everyone is entitled to their own wrong opinions.
Slytherin, don't fuck with me. Anyway.
That's the wrong end of the wand, ma'am!
No, I know. This is my smashing end. Anyway, short story long. Harry Potter is preparing for his return to his 3rd year at Hogwarts after being stuck with the Dursleys yet again for an awful summer. He needs the Dursleys, particularly Vernon, to sign off his permission slip so he can visit the wizarding neighboring town near Hogwarts called Hogsmeade. So basically, Hogsmeade is kind of like their summer adventure town / we go here because there's nothing else to do during the holidays.
It's like Aspen. It's Wizard Aspen.
Vernon basically says, no, not yet. I need you to behave while my sister is here. So his sister Marge comes to visit, and it goes horribly awry when she starts to talk about dogs and claiming that something is wrong with Harry because if there's a problem with the bitch, there's a problem with the pup. And
which
Harry,
is wickedly insulting.
incredibly insulting. I would have lost my shit too.
I'm sorry. We, again, with maximum asides, is the most insulting thing that I think you can say to a young orphan.
Yeah, to a kid who has clearly lost his parents, who is like already living with these really god-awful people.
Sorry, has he secretly lost his parents? Has clearly lost his parents.
Well, what's really okay, so what happens is he goes kind of full poltergeist. He's not really great at controlling his emotions or hiding his face. He's a typical Gryffindor. And things go crazy. Marge ends up getting inflated and flying out of the damn window into the sky. Into the sky.
Yep.
Harry grabs his trunk and starts to run away because he's like, well, I'm going to get killed now. As he's running away, he sees a black dog at the local park. It's really scary to him because it's massive. The dog disappears when we get suddenly the night bus.
Woo!
So this bus shows up. It's for traveling witches and wizards, especially those in distress, to get them where they need to go. It's bright purple. It's amazing. Muggles can't see it. If you have never read Harry Potter, Muggles are human beings who have no wizarding powers. And he gets on the bus. What's really funny about this is if you spent any time in London or England and you've taken a night bus, it's just a lot of vomit and drunk people. It's not the night bus, so don't get excited. You're just going to be dealing with a bunch of people who just got off work or at the club.
I would look forward to an actually magical night bus where it's just like drunk wizards. I do support that fully.
Dude, that would be really cool. So this is actually where we have our first departure from the book. There are a bunch of Jamaican skulls, or like shrunken heads, and one of them is in there and likes to talk to people.
They'd probably be Fiji if we're talking shrunken heads, and they have a horrible Jamaican accent, which is offensive and screams.
It's terrible. It's terrible. If you've listened to our episode on The Hobbit, you'll know all about our anger with the concept of racial coding in fantasy. But
it's not even coding. This is just...
Oh, it's blatant. But
yeah, like coding is at least kind of subtle. This is just a racist idea. Sorry.
So he's on the bus, or he gets on the night bus, and he meets Stan Stunpike, who in the book series later becomes important, but right now doesn't seem that important.
Right now, he does not fucking matter.
So he starts talking about Sirius Black, who's this wizard who's escaped from Azkaban. And he was supposedly a bigwig who killed people for Voldemort, which everybody refers to as you-know-who, because names have power, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, after arriving at the Leaky Cauldron, which is basically the wizard pub in London, he discovers that he's in trouble for violating the statute of underage wizarding. But the Minister of Magic kind of covers everything up, and it's like, oh, by the way, here's all your school books, including one that might try to bite your hand off.
Yes.
So upon taking the train back to Hogwarts, he meets up with his friends, Ron and Hermione, who are his like ride or dies. And they end up in a carriage with R.J. Lupin, who is a new professor. He's asleep.
My favorite person on earth.
Yes, he's amazing. So he's basically asleep the entire time. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to spill the tea since we're here. Let's talk. I'm going to need to tell you all about what happened at home. I don't understand why everything kind of got swept under the rug with my aunt or my uncle's family, seeing as they basically just wiped Marge's memory and we're like, everybody's good now. R.J. Lupin continues to sleep, and then all of a sudden the train stops, and these creatures known as the Dementors, which basically think ring wraiths time 1,000, get onto the train. They are the guards of the wizard prison Azkaban, the one that Sirius Black has escaped from.
Yes.
They attack Harry for some reason, which you find out in books 6, 7. One of them. Why they do it, but it's a lot of C.S. Lewis world building in the beginning.
Sure.
So Lupin wakes up as this creature is attacking Harry, scares it away with a spell that no one's ever seen before, and then he gives Harry some chocolate so he can regain his strength. And then he goes, I gotta go have a talk with the driver, and walks off.
Yes.
So when this is all going down, Harry hears a woman scream, and when he comes back to focus after eating chocolate and everything like that, he is like, didn't you guys hear that woman scream? And everybody's like, no, bro. I think you're just nuts. Malfoy, who is Harry Potter's enemy, sees this as the best time to start making fun of Harry Potter because he's like, you fainted in front of a Dementor, you little bitch. So they return to Hogwarts, they get there, they have their annual feast for the start of term, and it's announced that Lupin is the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. I think my favorite part is Dumbledore just going, good luck, Professor Lupin.
He's also the number one professor that I would probably call daddy.
I mean, that's a fair point.
Thank you.
It's after that they announced that Hagrid, who's the super big guy who's always taking care of animals and is awesome, is now the Care of Magical Creatures teacher. So the bad news is that Dementors are officially stationed at all entrances to the Hogwarts grounds for the year, and no one is happy about it.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Didn't, Dumbledore and McGonagall have to, okay this? The Dementors?
They did, but they didn't get a lot of sway because the Ministry of Magic is like, no, they're coming after Harry Potter. I need you to, or the Sirius Black is coming after Harry Potter. Right. You're approving this, or we're shutting down school.
Okay. Because I do vaguely remember that, but it's also just why are you letting these horrible creatures anywhere near the school? So I opened up the gummy, and I can confirm this is a horribly melted Hedwig.
Oh, horribly melted Hedwig.
I mean, accurate to the story, though.
Very accurate to the story. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm moving for the 8th time in what, 10 minutes?
Yeah, and I'm about to rip the wing off of a beloved childhood friend.
No! So anyway, they start their classes. In the book, they go basically to all of their classes. In the movie, we keep it short, and they go to divination class with Professor Trelawney, played by... Come on, you know this.
Do you?
She played Emma. She's married to Kenneth Branagh. It'll come back to me later. Anyway.
Hold on, I'm Googling it.
So
Emma Thompson,
who's a queen. Anyway, so
and Trelawney is a nutbird. I'm sorry. Trelawney is
every 800 number after midnight where you call to get a psychic reading.
She's insane.
Over the damn top. And I kind of wish that I had the whole haired Coke bottle glasses and stuff like that. So
next time.
Hermione hates her pretty quickly because Hermione is very much based on knowledge and science and what have I learned about the wizarding world? Can I back this up with facts from Hogwarts history? And Trelawney is none of these things. Trelawney is, let me look at your teacup, the Grim! She's basically convinced all the time that everyone is going to die. She is a professor at the school, which you find out later, pretty much only because she predicted something accurately once.
I mean, better than most.
I mean, that's fair.
Thank you.
So, at this point in time, everybody's kind of surprised because Hermione just seems to be appearing at random points and seems to be taking a lot of classes and no one can really figure out why. Ron is like, hey, you can't take that class because it's at the same time as this class. And she's like, basically, shut up and move on with your life. So they go to Hagrid's very first class of the year, and he's decided to use an incredibly dangerous creature called Hippogriff, whose name is Buckbeak.
Yep.
So it's very obvious that this creature is dangerous. Hagrid gives a full lesson on how to behave. I mean, for real though, he's kind of crazy and throws Harry onto it and then Harry goes flying off. But that's not a really great idea. Oh, bonus points if you guys see my cats end up behind me. So, it's a whole thing. It's nuts.
The Hippogriff?
Harry seems like he's done it correctly. Everybody's great job. And Malfoy, who is a complete disgrace to the name of Salazar Slytherin. Amanda, be a better Malfoy.
Not false.
You're being a better Malfoy. He ends up getting hurt by the Hippogriff because he refuses to listen to simple fucking instructions. And then after... No.
He doesn't want to bow to an animal.
Which is the simple fucking instruction.
He doesn't want to bow to an angry four-legged chicken. And I can respect that, because I wouldn't want to bow to an angry four-legged chicken. I also wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to take care of magical creatures because they scare me.
I think you would have a letter. You'd be
I
like,
would.
You'd be like, I have a doctor's note. I'm allergic to all magical creatures, and I need to
Yes.
check out.
I would 100% be that kid who would have like clept out of care of magical creatures because of like a forged note.
You could have just taken extra botany classes.
Yeah, and my owl scores for botany were fine. Well, herbology, forgive me. Botany is the muggle term. Herbology is the wizard term. I had a friend correct me on that once, and I will never make the mistake again.
Once, never again.
Once. Because I'm definitely a Slytherin.
Anyway, so
yes.
This is all dramatic. Malfoy tells everybody, my father is going to hear about this, which usually means Lucius is going to get involved and everybody's going to be pissed off because he's that dad who doesn't want to teach his kid how to behave, but he wants to yell at the teachers instead.
Sure. I think Lucius Malfoy is great.
He's rich as fuck. Anyway, the portrait that guards the Gryffindor common room, the fat lady, again, not necessarily greatly appropriate, is found. The portrait is ruined and empty of its namesake. Yes. She's found terrified and half naked hiding in another painting. She says that Sirius Black attacked her and entered the property. So,
where was anyone?
So my question is, why was it like... we closed down the school for a pandemic, right? Right?
Yeah.
Murderer on the loose in the castle.
Yes.
We're not going to close it down. It's fine.
But not even that. Here's my question. Hogwarts is big, correct?
Yeah.
Mostly full of people. Mostly full of people, correct?
Yes.
Where was anyone?
Oh, when this happened? Yeah, that's my question too.
Where was Headboy? Where was any sort of cat? Where was Dumbledore? Where Snape, who clearly has nothing better to do outside of have a repressed hard-on for Lupin? Where was anyone during this time outside of like plot clairvoyance? And I guess Sirius Black has super magic and can find the one glitch in the Matrix where he can appear when no one else is present.
So I'm going to go into that a little bit later with the Marauders map as well, because it's like, you're really concerned about security, but like you have a lot of secret passages and shit in the school that you should probably know about after thousands of years.
Not false.
Okay. Anyway, there is a Quidditch match between Hufflepuff and Gryffindor. Hufflepuff gets a really, really bad rap as being the weak house. They're just the super kind, gentle, loving house. They also throw great parties. From my friends.
There is a current idea that every Slytherin has a pet Hufflepuff.
Is pet the nice term?
Pet is the nice term.
So during the match, Harry gets attacked by a damned Dementor again. Knocks him off his broomstick, breaks the broomstick. The match is lost to Hufflepuff, so everyone is pissed. I mean, the Hufflepuffs are like, I hope Harry's okay, but also, we're number one! We won a match! And they're all excited. So anyway.
They're actually canonically really good at Quidditch, so like, I kind of hate that everyone forgets that because we're too busy dogging on Hufflepuff.
Well, also Slytherin, up until Harry Potter came to the school, had like a 12-year run of winning the House Cup. So,
fuck
Dumbledore,
you, Potter.
what the fuck? Anyway, so after he falls off his broomstick, there's all that kind of stuff that goes on. All the kids end up getting to go into Hogsmeade because they're in third year, except Harry, because, well, he doesn't have a signed permission slip because he blew up the sand.
Because he has no parents.
Because he has no parents. So he's not supposed to leave the premises. I mean, which logical thinking, you'd be like, a murderer is out to get me. Maybe I stay indoors.
Maybe.
So instead, the Weasley twins, who are Ron's brothers, give him the Marauders map, which is a mystical map that shows where everyone in the school is and how to get around secretly. There's also a way to get into Hogsmeade based off of this witch with a hump. It's a whole thing. And it helps Harry get there because he doesn't have the permission slip. He finds out accidentally on his trip to Hogsmeade that Sirius Black was his dad's best friend and even was the best man at Harry's parents' wedding. The belief is that Sirius Black sold out the Potters to Voldemort and killed 12 Muggles.
Gasp.
I write belief for a good reason.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Professor Lupin is doing his best to keep Harry from getting himself killed, and he's trying to teach him ways to protect himself from the Dementors, including the Patronus charm, which is the thing that he used on the bus, or the train. Planes, trains, automobiles, there's a lot going on. Anyway, Harry's having a really hard time producing a Patronus, which sounds like a whole level of sex jokes we're not getting into.
So Harry Potter is magic impotent. Got it.
Magic impotent. So the Patronus is kind of like a weird ghost-looking animal thing. Harry's dad's was a stag. Harry can't really produce one yet, so we don't know what his is.
What's your Patronus?
I want it to be an otter, but according to Pottermore says it's a dapple mare, which is basically just a white fucking horse.
Mine is a hedgehog.
I can see that for you. Cute, cuddly, spiky at points.
Well, I really relate to the hedgehog's dilemma, which is a philosophical quandary where hedgehogs really want to get close to people, but because of their spines, they can't. Which, same, but with trauma. So it's one of those things of like, I hate it because it makes sense, but also like, please give me literally anything else that's cooler.
I have officially 2 cats sleeping on the bed now.
Where are they?
They're being sleepy, and I don't want to move my camera yet, so
fine.
I'll take pictures.
You better.
So all this bullshit is going around. Unfortunately, Buckbeak biting Malfoy comes back to haunt them, and it's announced that Buckbeak will be executed.
Yes.
Because Hagrid isn't necessarily a great lawyer.
But also, like, realistically, if a pit bull attacks a child, the pit bull's being put down. Thank you.
Okay. Harry, Ron, and Hermione unfortunately witnessed the execution because they want to be there for Hagrid.
And then there's no unfortunately. They were there.
Ron's pet, Scabbers, who's this rat who's basically been in the past 3 books, disappears. He runs away from Ron and scampers into a hole underneath the Whomping Willow.
Which is my favorite character.
Oh, sorry. He bites him, escapes. Okay, so he runs after him. Then all of a sudden, this giant dog appears. Let me go ahead and do this. And he drags Ron and Scabbers, who's been captured, down the tree. Sorry. The Whomping Willow is notorious for breaking things, including flying Ford Anglias, and beating the crap out of people on a regular basis who get too close.
And is my favorite thing in the entire world.
It's awesome. I like the giant squid in the Hogwarts Lagoon, too. So Harry and Hermione follow this to find out where the hole leads, and they discover it's an underground passage, and it supposedly it leads to the haunted building in Hogsmeade's Town, which is the Shrieking Shack.
Yes. They
discover that Sirius is the dog who has drugged Ron into the tunnel. They're freaking out as he's able to transform himself into an animal. He's known what's called an animagus. Lupin arrives all of a sudden, and they're like, what the fuck is he doing here? And he hugs Sirius like an old friend,
or his husband.
Which blows everyone's mind, right?
Yes.
Lupin admits the reason he's so freaking weird is that he's actually a werewolf, and so he's been having to take like special potions and stuff and hide. But also that Sirius Black is innocent and was falsely accused of betraying the Potters and murdering 12 Muggles. But really, Ron's rat is actually a dude named Peter Pettigrew who used to hang out with the Marauders, which were James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, and then Peter Pettigrew. And they're the ones who invented the map. They hung out together. But really, Peter Pettigrew is the one who killed the 12 Muggles and betrayed the Potters because he was the one who helped do a spell, which isn't explained in the movie.
So 2 quick asides. 1, the older I get, the more uncomfortable I am with the fact that there's weird Peter Pettigrew, Ron's rat stuff.
Like a full-grown man sleeping in a child's bed for years?
Yeah, so the older I get, the more uncomfortable I am with that. Also, how dare you lump Peter Pettigrew into the Marauders? He was more like a weird fanboy that wouldn't leave them alone.
They include him in all the little charts and stuff about the Marauders.
But those charts
on
are
the Marauders map, and so I include him even though he's a dick betrayer. Anyway, Snape, who's super fucking tired of Lupin shit and the Gryffindor bullshit, arrives to capture Sirius Black, Harry knocks him unconscious with the only spell he seems to have ever been able to master in the entire fucking series, Expelliarmus. Like,
Yes.
that's what he uses for everything. I'm like, I guess, get really good at one spell and you might be able to defend yourself, but...
I'm
So
trying to
they...
figure out what flavor this melted Hedwig is.
all flavors at once.
Yes.
So after forcing Peter Pettigrew back into human shape, Lupus and Sirius are going to kill him, but Harry's like, hey, why don't you just turn him over to the Dementors and he can be taken to Azkaban to pay for his crimes? Stupid plan.
Very stupid.
The full moon rises, Lupin turns into a werewolf, Sirius turns into a dog to fight Lupin off so the kids will be protected.
Yes.
Peter turns back into a rat and escapes.
Yes.
Harry chases after Sirius, and they're attacked by a group of Dementors in the woods. Harry sees this mysterious figure in the woods and that casts a Patronus to save them, and it's a giant stag. So he thinks it's probably his dad.
Probably.
And then he passes out. When he wakes up in the hospital wing, he finds out that Sirius Black has been captured again and is going to get something that's basically the death penalty. It's the Dementor's kiss. It's basically where they suck out all the joy from your body.
I thought it was just like they remove his soul.
Yes. But that's basically living death.
Cool.
And most people kill themselves pretty quickly after it. We figure out that Hermione has been able to take so damn many classes because she has what's called the time turner, which 100% I would be Hermione. I'd be taking like 40 classes at once and be like, I don't know why I'm tired. Why are you being like this? Anyway, Deus Ex Machina at its finest, Dumbledore tells Harry and Hermione to use the time turner and set themselves back a few hours to repeat the night's events.
Yes.
They manage to rescue Buckbeak from execution. Harry sees the Dementors start to come over to him and Sirius later, and he realizes that it was he who produced the Patronus, not his father. He has the same Patronus as James Potter. Tear, 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 everyone cries. And he uses it with great force. Sirius is then rescued and takes off on Buckbeak to taste the sweet, sweet puppy freedom. Lupin is unfortunately exposed as a werewolf and resigns from teaching so he doesn't cause problems with parents. Sirius sends Harry a firebolt from exile, and he gets his signed permission slip.
Hooray. End of movie.
End of movie. Everyone's happy. You step up from your seat in the theater because it's the IMAX version and it's the early 2000s. You're like, I can't see anything.
Yep.
I'm gonna go sing Macbeth songs. The double toil and trouble? Yes.
I mean, I know. I'm aware. I know what you're referencing.
I forgot what it was about, and I was like muttering it to myself. All right. So
we have some themes.
We have many, many themes. So we're gonna break this down for you guys a little bit if you've never listened to us before.
Yes.
We have multiple themes in this.
Yes.
Family being what you choose is a big theme in this.
Yes.
Harry's adoptive parents are absolutely fucking terrible. His cousin is absolutely fucking terrible.
Mm-hmm.
He lives for the moments where he gets to see the Weasley family, who basically go, we choose you as our own now. You live here. You're our baby.
Yes.
Same thing with Hermione and her family. Everybody kind of just becomes this big group.
Right.
Hermione's parents are muggles, so they don't really necessarily get what their daughter's into, but they support it, which is 100% good parenting win.
Yes.
This also you'll see with Remus Lupin and Sirius Black. This is family that Harry chooses. They are not biological, but they're close enough to him to be like his dad's.
Sure. And I don't know. I think that might have been the most interesting part of Harry Potter, at least like for me coming into this series, was this idea of found family. A lot of young adult fiction really focuses on that, because for whatever reason you can't have a young adult protagonist who has a happy family life because it's not interesting.
What is it? All happy families are the same. All dysfunctional families are dysfunctional in a different way. I'm trying to paraphrase Tolstoy, and I'm doing a terrible job.
It's pretty much similar. Yeah, it's pretty much similar to that. Which means I kind of love and hate it, because like as a person who had a not great childhood, there's a portion of me that understands and relates on a molecular level to this, but also wouldn't be unhappy with maybe a normal family life, because that would be what is truly fictional to me.
There's a lot in here to unpack, especially because we all struggle, especially in our teenage years and preteen years and stuff, of trying to figure out who we are and who our people are, who we blend with the most. The really difficult thing, especially in teen years, and you see this a lot with fiction, is we don't necessarily know who we are yet, so we kind of bounce around a little bit, and this can lead to a lot of problems, because when you are insecure and you're not comfortable with yourself, you tend to do a lot of stupid things and lash out at people.
Tell me how to live.
I was like, that's where we see a lot of things with Mean Girls and stuff like that. Honestly, me finding my people, it took me until I was in my late 20s, early 30s. And now I have like my crews, which is cool. Multiple group chats. Amanda is a chat. I have multiple things where it's like where you're having a small breakdown. You're like, I can't comprehend this. Let's talk about it. And it works multiple ways. And these people become your family. Like, I love my mom. I love my sister. I love my stepdad. I love my family. But there are also people who get me on a level that my mom and sister and stepdad don't necessarily get. Like my complete nerdy fandom. I have groups that I go into and they become my found family.
Right.
Sorry.
No, and same. Like I had that with anime and with comic books and with my own, tumultuous home life, that I found a family. I think I found my tribe college-ish. I found it on websites. I found it through cosplay. I found it through writing and role play and fan fiction. You find your family, and it's really, really important to acknowledge how important found family can be, because I think a lot of Western media doesn't like to give credit to the fact that families can suck.
And they can. They definitely can.
So, like, while they kind of get off on this whole idea of, like, every young adult protagonist has to, like, have a terrible childhood, when actual children say they have a terrible childhood, no one tends to listen, which is, I think, one of the biggest reasons why, like, found family is so important is, I know, like, at least for me, junior high school, we could all commiserate together. We could all talk about our horrible families. Because realistically, and I've learned this having a terrible childhood, I think almost everyone's childhood is terrible. It's just to what degree.
Exactly. It's how much trauma can you survive before you need to have it broken down by a therapist?
Yeah. Also, I will say this. I mentioned this before we started recording to a friend of mine. I said, I completely relate to Remus Lupin's approach to trauma, which is to fuck therapy, fuck medication, fuck everything. Here, have some chocolate. Eat to avoid the negative feelings.
Eat, it will make you feel better.
My favorite meme is actually, like, when you find yourselves in time of trouble, Remus Lupin comes to me speaking words of wisdom, eat, you'll feel better.
I love that meme so much. That's what I was just thinking. So,
but, yeah, that's found family.
One of the things I really like, I'm kind of going down a little bit because I know we're going to spend some time on the other three. You're going to suffer, but you're going to be happy about it is a portion when they're in the divination classroom.
Yes.
Ron is trying to read Harry's tea leaves, and he goes, well, you've got this kind of wonky cross, and you've got this, so you're going to suffer, but you're going to be happy about it. So what's interesting in the Harry Potter books and in life in general, we're all going to suffer. We're all going to go through things we don't want to deal with. We can't avoid that. That's part of being human, which I know some of us are like, I don't want to be immortal. Anyway, we take what we have, and what we do with it is how we become better people.
Right.
And I'm not saying suffering is something that I want for anyone. Because I don't. It sucks. This pandemic shit sucks. Yeah. But we're learning things about ourselves. We're learning things about each other. We're also learning the people that we can't trust with guns or in a zombie apocalypse.
Anyway. And we're learning the people that we can trust in a zombie apocalypse, mostly me. I think I really related to that whole line mostly because it cracked me up. I think it's hard to see. I always go back and forth on this whole, like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger thing. Because there's a portion of me that doesn't disagree with it, but also, like, it would be nice to have not gone through the trauma.
100%. So, like, yeah, there are...
Like, true. I am a, air quotes, better person, or at least a different person because of the trauma that I've been through. But you know what else would be great? Having 2 living parents. That'd probably be really neat.
Right. And I mean, there are certain elements of trauma that I'm not going to go into here.
Fair.
That you're like, oh my gosh, why did I have to go through this? And then you end up being able to take care of other people, which I'm not,
Yeah.
again, I'm not saying I want everyone to suffer because I truly don't. It sucks.
Yeah. I don't want anyone to suffer, but if you need a supportive queer auntie, I'm here for you. I'm your
So
dad now.
I'm your parents now.
Yes.
So something that's really interesting in the book and movie
Mm-hmm.
is, Remus Lupin covering up his condition. And
Mm-hmm.
J.K. Rowling has said having werewolfism is kind of like having HIV, which annoys the shit out of me
I'm
to
glad
a
that you just
level.
used the word annoy.
It's okay. What bothers me is because Lupin is so clearly like modeled on teachers and people and power and stuff like that who were gay in like the 80s and 90s and stuff like that and had to keep it hidden. And so to throw in that level of like, oh, it's HIV related. It's like HIV. I'm like, it makes me so frustrated because I'm like, so your parents, everybody here thinks that because he was brutally attacked by a werewolf, he wasn't being careful.
And that somehow that makes him less able to do his job.
Like it pisses me off
It makes me
to no
so
end.
violently angry. Um Mostly because of the retcon. Like I'm actually kind of okay with like the light symbolism of like him stepping down being like that metaphor for gay teachers. But then adding in that whole like it's like HIV. It's like because that also somehow makes someone incapable of being a teacher? Hard question marks. We're gonna have a whole section where I rant about Auntie Jo Rowling, so we're
Oh,
just gonna put a pin
I
in that.
I left a space. I left a space
Yeah,
about her.
we're
Um
gonna have a whole section where I get to go off.
so I do have to ask,
Yes.
are Dumbledore and Gandalf just the same guy?
Yes.
Just Gandalf drinks more?
Yes. Well, no. Dumbledore drinks. He wants brandy after the whole Buckbeak thing.
That's true. That's fair. Like
So
do you think it's just like Gandalf is who he plays whenever he does like Dungeons and Dragons or
yeah, like Gandalf is his Adventure Zone D&D character.
yeah, he's
Yeah,
like I don't want to help these kids anymore. I'm going to go off on a bad wizard Tinder date. Bye.
I
Or
can see
would it
that
be
being a thing.
because he's gay, wouldn't it be Grinder, I guess?
I mean, you can do gay stuff on Tinder. I mean, okay. Can I get Jude Law Dumbledore on Grinder though?
He's very pretty. Okay,
Can I?
so it's still bothering me, so I have to go back about the
Oh,
the Lupin thing.
sure.
Okay.
Let's go back.
This is a better metaphor for the trans community than it is the gay and HIV community, and I don't
Mm,
think she can fucking see it because she's a turf. Anyway,
I
backing
don't
up.
think that it's a better as a genderqueer person, I don't know if it's better for the trans community. I think it kind of reminds me of more of the queer experience being like LGBT, well, LGB. So more like Let It Go and Frozen of that whole like conceal, don't feel. Like there's parts where you do like just during Pride, you go on vacation and you don't list where you're going on PTO. It's
Right.
like oh, you're gone for the entire month of June. Where are you going? Family reunion visit.
And it's not a lie, it is a family reunion. It's your
Yeah,
extended family.
right. So like I think I actually I can kind of respect it as a metaphor for being gay or bi more than I think I because the only reason why I don't like it as a trans metaphor is again like the idea that something violent had to happen for you to realize that's a part
Fair,
of you.
fair. I will
Um
step back from the
we've mentioned that our Olympic medals are feverish backpedaling.
feverish
So
backpedaling and running from the text.
right. So and again, like I even have to be careful without calling it like a queer metaphor because again, I don't like the idea of like something monstrous having to happen, but like the idea of having to conceal yourself, the idea of never really being your true self in any one place. Uh, I can kind of get that. Though I will say I've been very very fortunate that there are very few places that I've had to like hide my sexuality or anything like that. Um, I can only imagine, though, it must have been very, very difficult for him to be away from his husband, Sirius Black, because those two were clearly married.
I saw that you would put that in themes as well, the benefits of having two cool gay dads.
They are obviously married.
Why? Is it just because of the way they get irritated with each other?
Snape says they bicker like an old married couple, and they do. And the hugging and the this heart right here, two straight bros don't talk to each other that way. Those two are in love.
I mean, I think Nymphadora Tonks would argue, but okay. Anyway, there's a lot of symbols in this.
There's too many symbols.
We've already talked about werewolves, so I'm going to take that one off the plate. We've already
Was it on the plate? We served a werewolf? Can I say something? I don't like the way they're depicted. He looks like a horrifying mangy dog. He's not scary. He's just weird looking. He's too fleshy.
This is my fleshy dog. Please get rid of this. I'm pretty sure that's the Lake Worth monster.
He looks like that horrible Grendel from that Beowulf movie no one likes talking about. Like, he's too fleshy.
You mean he's not... have like the Crispin Glover Grendel that just howls and makes these noises that you're like, are you okay? Do you need me to come get you?
Like, he's not scary. He's not that big. He's not that strong. And he's way too fleshy. Like, I was scared as a kid, but looking at him now, I'm like, this needs to be put down. This is someone's sick coyote that just escaped from a backyard.
So he's more of a chupacabra then?
Yeah, he's the South Texas chupacabra. And I'm pretty sure our chupacabra is about the same size.
Probably.
Like, this might be the Texan in me, but I'm pretty sure you could shoot that thing and it not be a threat. So I just advocated for shooting Remus Lupin, even though I love him and just called him Daddy earlier.
Please don't shoot him.
Not yet.
So, I was laughing because your whole time turner thing listed and time travel as symbols. And in my head, all I can do is, and you're going to be so mad at me, is, if I could turn back time. And it's a problem. It's a problem.
It is a problem, and I am a little bit mad at you. I'm a little bit mad, but I think we can't wash over the fact that, like, this is a thing, and especially, like, when it's a thing in the narrative, because it's apparently never mentioned. So Hermione gets the time turner first year because we trust children with time magic, and we just now figure it out. I don't like it because of the ethics of time travel, and it also opens up a lot of can of worms of, like, do we punch baby Hitler in the face? Also, I feel like you could have done a lot more for everything. Sure. But the fact that we're
also gets buggy, too, because we also have the Cursed Child, where they've taken all the time turners and locked them up in the Ministry of Magic, because time travel should not be a tool used. But I'm going, you gave it to the equivalent of, like, a sophomore in high school, and or freshman in high school, and said, here's go ahead and take multiple classes.
Right, like, it's so as a metaphor, being able to, like, control time and stuff like that, like, impact the past. That's all cool. You see that actually a lot with young adult fiction because there's this desire for, like, almost like revisionist history. So, like, if you can go back and, like, fix your mistakes. So it's very telling the things that they do, which is they don't go back and punch baby Hitler in the face. But what they do is they save a rabid, angry chicken. I don't support Buckbeak. I do not support Buckbeak rights. He is a terrifying monster who should not have been around a bunch of children. And they LARP their way through some Dementor stuff, which I guess is fine.
Maybe it's just because I have the same maiden name as the crocodile hunter, but I'm like, you go, hippogriff! You be free in the wild!
And do what?
And do, hippogriff?
Which entails perching in trees, eating small animals, terrorizing children and villages.
I mean, mostly it's eating fish out in the woods.
I don't like it, and
ponds.
I don't want it. It's fine out in the wild. I don't want it anywhere near me.
We also have magic as a puberty metaphor.
You see with Harry's earlier magic impotence. It tends to flare up with emotions. It's also very telling that around this time in the movie, they are all 13, even though Daniel Radcliffe clearly looks much older than that. It's interesting because we see this actually in a lot of narratives, is that like magical abilities and like that, they tend to flare up or arise around that like puberty age, because you have very strong feelings and you're coming into your own. And it's also a bit of like a revenge metaphor. So like now you can like do stuff with all of that, righteous fury that you have, which means that now instead of just throwing a punch, you can like magic your rival into a wall. Which I don't recommend.
Get him turned into a ferret.
And then feed it to the hippogriff.
I mean, we can only hope. Anyway, there are a lot of differences from the movie and the text. But the majority of them are based on timing. A lot of things are kept in, but just put in different order.
Yes.
So it's kind of like watching the Laurence Olivier version of Wuthering Heights. You can't just stop where you want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, don't write a book report based on the movie, is what I'm saying.
Don't write a book report based on any movie.
I mean, just don't. It's not worth it.
No.
So other than maybe the adaptation of Dune they made a few years ago with Sci-Fi Channel. Anyway, back away. So the movie takes a lot of liberties with the time period. In the book, the firebolt actually shows up just after their bad Quidditch match where his broom gets destroyed, but Hermione's like, hey, you should really give this to Professor McGonagall to look at because it could be bewitched. Professor McGonagall takes it away for testing, and Harry's pissed off at Hermione forever about it.
Yes.
In the movie, he just gets it at the end. Yay, nobody's mad at anybody.
Right.
The Fidelia's charm, which is what the Potters used with Sirius Black to secure their location when they were hiding, that was overseen by Peter Pettigrew. It's described in detail in the book, but it's not described in the movie. It's just, it's only really Sirius could have known where they were. Well, if you have another wizard who's there helping them do this, he's not under the same restrictions.
It's the power of friendship. Don't worry about it.
In the book, there are 2 trips to Hogsmeade, but there's one before the Marauders map and one after, but they're combined in the movie to save some time. The scene where Hermione slaps Malfoy is actually moved to a different time in the movie to make it seem more active and exciting.
Yes.
It completely leaves out how Sirius Black became best friends with Hermione's cat, Crookshanks, because Crookshanks helps them figure out where certain things are.
Let's just be real. We don't get a lot of Crookshanks doing anything.
Well, it's expensive to do
to get a cat to do things?
Well, one, either train the cat, or 2, use CGI for the cat.
Yes.
The romance between Percy Weasley of Gryffindor and Penelope Clearwater of Ravenclaw is completely left out of the movie.
It's so we can figure out which Weasley we think is hottest.
Oh, okay. The backstory for the Marauders map isn't mentioned in the movie.
True.
What is it? Padfoot, Prongs.
Moony,
Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs.
Prongs.
There we go. The film adds the Jamaican shrunken heads, as we already talked about. That's just like, no, thank you.
Yes.
So there's some details about J.K. Rowling, aka Auntie Jo. J.K. was a change from her real name for publication because it was believed by her editor that boys would not read an adventure book if they thought it was written by a woman.
Is this an adventure?
Yes, it's considered to be an adventure book.
Well, that's why I asked the question. I know it's considered to be, but I don't know if it is.
Harry Potter was rejected by multiple publishing houses. It ended up getting rescued from the slush pile because an 8-year-old named Alice Newton, who was the daughter of the editor, was bored out of her mind, and her parents were like, just read this chapter of this book and tell me what you think. And she came up and said, where's the rest of it? I want more. So thank you, Alice. And we're talking about the Harry Potter books in general.
Yes.
J.K. Rowling was actually homeless and lived in her car in Glasgow for a long time following a painful divorce from what is rumored to be an abusive husband. You'll see that in a lot of bios, but there tends to be a lot of backpedaling when it's talked about in public. She would actually write at a place called the Elephant House, and there's another cafe out there as well. The Elephant House is amazing. I 100% recommend it when we can travel again. They have really good jacket potatoes. They have an excellent view of Edinburgh Castle, which is where a lot of the inspiration for Hogwarts came from. And then right underneath is Greyfriars Cemetery, where a lot of the cemetery scenes and stuff like that are based off of. So she used to go there after, so she and her husband met in Portugal, where she was teaching English to students. And they had a daughter named Jessica, and after some stuff went bad, she bailed out and moved to Glasgow. And she would go to these cafes to write so Jessica would be able to sleep during the day and stop crying. And then she would just stay there with like a cup of coffee and write all day. And if you go to the Elephant House, they actually have articles from local papers all over the walls. Her and Alexander McCall Smith, actually. So it's a fun place to write, and it's a fun place to eat.
Cool.
So we've already talked a little bit about locations and stuff like that. She actually became the world's first billionaire author, but she's since lost the title because she donates heavily to charity, including one that she founded called Lumos. So you'll see that a lot of her books are all proceeds donated to Lumos, things like that from Pottermore as well. The Ford Anglia, the turquoise Ford Anglia from the second movie and the second book, was actually a car owned by one of her friends that they used to travel in. So she made it into a flying car for the books. Alfonso Cuarón directed the third movie, and he changed a lot of the timing and the looks and things like that. He put people in fairly normal clothing, so you weren't just in these super wizard outfits all the time. And a lot of people lost their damn minds.
I actually like that change.
I like that change as well. I had a whole fight about this with my husband, who's like, no, it was stupid. And I'm like, whatever. I was happy to get another Potter movie.
Yeah, same.
Rowling is also published under other pseudonyms. She wrote a book called The Casual Vacancy that was selling okay, but not amazing. And then she got outed from her pseudonym, and all of a sudden the book took off. She was trying to distance herself from Harry Potter and that whole thing. But so this is kind of where I'm going to turn the tables over to Amanda so she can have her rant. But over the past several years...
No. Don't call it a rant, because a rant makes it sound like my feelings aren't valid.
You called it a rant earlier.
I said an aside.
Okay, that's an aside.
Thank you.
So Rowling has come under a lot of fire, especially in the past few years, because she releases little bits and pieces on Twitter about her characters, which don't necessarily make any sense whatsoever to the world or anything like that. She got in huge trouble for saying Dumbledore's gay. She got in huge trouble for the HIV thing with Remus Lupin. She refused to support the trans community outright. So there's been a lot of stuff about that, about trans exclusatory feminism.
Trans exclusionary radical feminism.
Feminism. Go ahead.
So, to backpedal briefly, she didn't get flack over Dumbledore's gay. She got flack over adding it at the end and then refusing to do anything about it. So the crimes that I have put against Jo Rowling include 1, being a TERF, which accurate, 2, queer baiting, which is saying something is queer and then not acknowledging it at all, because we had an opportunity to see gay Dumbledore, which would have actually been a great moment of real representation, and then she decided to blue ball the entire fan community by not doing that in Fantastic Beasts. The other thing is not letting the work die, which leads into something that I feel very strongly about, which is death of the author. So death of the author basically states that once a work is released and published, the author really should go off into that sweet night. The author, in theory, should not be adding much to their work after it's been published. Because in theory, as a writer, you have all of this time to craft this world, and then like an origami crane, you should release it out into the world. And J.K. Rowling has refused to let this world go. And for someone like me, who like many, where Hogwarts was my home when I didn't have one emotionally, I never didn't physically have one, but when Hogwarts was my sanctum sanctorum, when I needed something, having her continually add things that don't really fix the narrative or don't support anything that's useful, or just actively offensive and reductive, like how she handled a lot of like Native American mysticism when she talked about Fantastic Beasts. It's just harmful. She really should go off into that good night and leave this alone, because she's not helping. And I can only imagine that if I was a famous author who published a work that was very, very famous and had millions of interpretations, that I likely would have some opinions that differ. But the way she's been doing it is just so ham-handed and so destructive that it's exhausting, and I no longer support her. I honestly feel like the work stopped being hers years ago. As far as I'm concerned, Harry Potter belongs to us. That's why I don't get mad about differences in school in house uniform. I don't get mad about different interpretations of character. I don't get mad about any of those things, because at this stage, to me, Harry Potter is ours. Hogwarts is ours. We're all creating this world together, and that's why I love seeing like original characters OCs. Like I love that so much, because let's be real, a lot of the representation that most people would get from Harry Potter is not great. It's shocking that a modern school has no people of color, or like 5.
I was gonna say, all I can think of is like Jordan, and then there's the Patil twins. There's one kid. There's one kid that's supposedly Jewish. One Asian chick.
Yeah, Cho Chang. So there are your minorities. There we go. We all put them in one basket.
Which I mean is incredibly interesting, especially for, you know, where Hogwarts would be pulling from for their student body. London is huge. London has so many different races and different people, and I mean some of the best freaking Indian food in the world. Okay,
because of colonialism.
Sorry. But what's crazy to me is it's like, are you taking people mostly from like the rural countryside? Is that where the majority of the magic is coming from?
Right. Are you saying that people of African descent can't be magic? Is what?
Well, what's interesting too is you have schools like Beauxbatons, and you have the one in Brazil that I can't remember the name of because it's very rarely talked about. And you have Durmstrungs, and Durmstrungs is very Slavic coded. I mean, it's
Russian.
It's very Russian.
It's so Russian.
But it's also one of those things where you're going, all right, so I know that that's an all-boys school where the female witch is at, because Russia has a huge culture of wise women and women who treated the sick and kept the community going and did fortune telling and stuff like that. And especially during communism, that went way underground.
Right.
So it's interesting that there's this whole magic school up in the Slavic countries, but only the men go.
Right. And in reverse, when she had this beautiful French school full of beautiful women, where France had a ton of mystical men, namely people like Nostradamus and such. Like, France was full of male magic users that were ignoring, I guess, but sure.
Well, I mean, there's the whole period of the Belle Epic too. I can't even pronounce French, so I'm not going to try. But it's the whole period where, you know, you have all these different levels of mysticism, things like that were coming up as well. And it was the majority of it where there were a lot of men that were involved. And you had like, I say Debussy, I don't think that's how you say it. But like his music was considered to be mystical and all sorts of like stuff like that as well. There's a whole period in France.
Right. So it's at this stage it's lazy. So the word that I come to use a lot for her is it's retcon. And you see retcon in comic book talk a lot. It's a retroactive continuity. So it's adding something that wasn't there. So like her saying 10 years later, oh, by the way, Dumbledore was gay and was super, super hard for Grindelwald. Where in text? Show me where.
And I mean, like, in the 6th book and the 7th book, it's basically just describing, like, they had an incredibly close friendship and then horrible stuff happened to his sister, or Dumbledore's sister, which is a straight up rape metaphor.
Yes.
And I'm not here for it.
No.
That there's just, like, a lot of things that you're going, you could put that there. You could put that there.
Right. As opposed to just saying it on Twitter and then leaving it like a fart in the room.
Part of me understands a little bit of it too, because she did have so much flack when the books first came out from the uber religious community in the United States. I
Which
mean,
we'll talk about.
I just remember things being like, oh no, this book has witchcraft. They're going to get it pulled from the school shelves. And I'm like, cool, well, I just powered through all the books and I don't care. Like, I come from a Lutheran family and no one in my family cares about this right now.
Right, like I came from a Christian family for my parents and Catholic for my aunts. And my aunts cared less. The Catholic Church cared a lot. My parents didn't care, but my parents' church cared a lot. So that was interesting to deal with, where like in the home, it kind of didn't matter, but like in church, it mattered a lot. So that's Death of the Author and Authorial Intent, and why Amanda does not like Auntie Jo Rowling.
So you also have space in here too for our talks about what the fandom means to us.
I think it's important because, you know, this is a convention, and I think it's important to mention, for the sake of fandom, what this does for us. And I'll go ahead and start. Harry Potter is the reason I took Latin. Harry Potter ended up, again, like it was my family when I felt like I didn't have one. I found intense community and strength through being able to say that I was a part of this fandom and a part of this family. I am a avid shipper within Harry Potter, but it also gave me my first experiences with something that I talk about a lot over in my blog, which is writing for revenge, which is I don't feel like in places J.K. Rowling is the strongest of writers. So I will take this work and I will do it, in my opinion, better. And I do that frequently, and I do that with costumes and with role play and with fan fiction. But the fandom for me has been remarkably supportive and has been a stabilizing force in my life. I'm proud of my house, which, if you are not aware of, is obviously Slytherin. I have some great Slytherin friends. I have some great Ravenclaw friends. I do have a pet Hufflepuff who I love more than anything. And there is no such thing as a good Gryffindor, but, you know, if you exist, I'm willing to humor you at least once.
I have friends in all houses at this point in time. I have one friend that goes back and forth between whether I can tell if he's a Ravenclaw or a Gryffindor. It kind of depends on how much he's had to drink. I love you, Brett, dramatically, just so you know that.
Not dramatically.
Dramatically. Threw my hands back. My husband is a Ravenclaw. He is a textbook Ravenclaw. So is one of my absolute best friends in the world, Crystal. They will tell you you're wrong to your face and then give you the charts to prove it. I'm friends with a lot of Slytherins. I work with a lot of Slytherins. So what I think is funny is I remember taking the test in college on Pottermore, which if you've never taken the test, if you're over 11, go ahead and do it. If you're under 11, then just remember your personality will change. But hopefully you're not listening to this anyway because we've been swearing a lot. So I remember taking the test in college and getting Slytherin. And at that point in time, I was like, oh, I've got to be a Gryffindor. Got to be a Gryffindor. No, I just like to drink a lot. Anyway, I was a Slytherin and I was a goth kid. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess that fits. What's interesting now is when I take tests, I'm like, here for Slytherin and here for Ravenclaw. Like, there's a chance it's going to get bumped up at any minute.
You know, when I was young, I actually tested for Ravenclaw, and then the older I got, the more Slytherin I got. I guess it's because of the lack of parents.
Well, there's the whole issue, too, of cunning and being able to be emotionally intelligent when it comes to getting what you want. And I think Slytherin gets a lot of flack because we have bad wizards, but we also have Merlin. So.
And also, J.K. Rowling isn't a great writer and doesn't give us any avatars in Slytherin that have a brain cell.
And that's the very difficult thing, too, is I think that's where I was most upset because I'm like, Crabbe, Goyle. Draco. Pansy Parkington. Like, come on, guys. There's got to be. And I mean, got to remember, like I said before, they won the House Cup for like 12 years in a row until Harry Potter started at the school. So clearly they're doing something right. They've got the toughest teacher in the school. And then like later on in the series where you have like Slughorn, who's obviously very intelligent and obviously knows how to manipulate things so he's in the good graces of everyone. I'm like, these are important lessons to learn.
Manipulation. an important lesson to learn. Yeah, that's true. I'm going to eat this chocolate rabbit now because Remus Lupin told me to.
You know what I just realized?
Yes.
This entire thing, we haven't talked about how sexy Gary Oldman is.
Well, there's no time like the present.
My apologies to Baron von Cheeseplate and also to Chris, who are
I have
probably...
no apologies about this. Gary Oldman is one of the most attractive men that has ever existed, and if you listen to our podcast, I discuss that he has a penchant for being in roles where he ends up playing someone's gay husband, and I stand by that fact.
I still will never get over the fact that as much as I hate the Scarlet Letter and as much as I didn't want to watch the movie version of it, his bare butt in the water was a bomb on a sad, sad day.
He has a good chest.
Hi, I'm here to objectify Gary Oldman. Love you. Please don't be mad at me.
Do you think that he would mind?
I think he'd probably be like, could you lay off talking about my bum? But
should we ask him?
I don't want to ask him.
Okay. Because I can tweet at him. I've had just enough butterscotch liqueur that I would be willing to tweet and ask him from our official Twitter, do you mind if we talk about your bum?
I do have to make another butterbeer for Mark because I gave him a sip of it, and I go, it's really strong, but you won't taste it. He's like, I don't know if I'd like it. And he took a sip of it, and I'm like, you can't taste any of the alcohol, can you? And he's like, no. I'm like, this is why it is the most dangerous drink at Hogwarts.
I intentionally made mine a little bit weak because I have masks to make. My family learned that I can make masks. So I've been drafted, which means that I sat on my sofa dressed like Draco Malfoy making masks, which is, I think, the most out of character thing in the entire world.
I was going to say, but it's pretty typical Amanda.
They look good so far.
I'm excited.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So as far as adaptations, so far there's really only been the one.
One movie.
There are constant discussions about, eventually they're going to remake the movies. And you just see all of us elder millennials going,
no.
You don't need to remake it. You just rebox set it every 10 years and it's fine.
Yeah, make it a Star Wars, or you just make the effects better. Can we get a cut where Remus Lupin looks like an actual werewolf?
I mean, that would be great.
And not a horrible fleshy dog? I was really so, spoiler, I watched the movie before I started recording earlier today because I wanted to be fresh. And I was so distracted by the fact that he just looks like a horrifying fleshy dog.
He's an uncomfortable dog. He's uncomfortable. I mean, like, honestly, Sirius Black looks more like a werewolf.
Sirius Black looks great. Oh, we didn't get to have my fun aside about how I hate when J.K. Rowling thinks she's clever.
Go for it.
So one thing that I don't like in writing ever is when you can tell that authors think that they're being clever.
I think we talked a little bit about this with Tolkien as well.
We've talked about it in almost every episode of the podcast, but we're assuming that our listeners now are new.
Okay.
I don't like that when any author does it. So J.K. Rowling having lines like, oh, out for a stroll in the moonlight, Lupin. Stop it. We know. You've basically named him werewolf. We know. It's not a shock. It's not surprising. I don't know what Snape's hard-on is for outing this poor werewolf. Is he homophobic? Is that it? Are we saying that Snape is homophobic against werewolves, against gay werewolves?
Well, I mean, he's also a terrible excuse for a human being, but...
Is he a Westboro Baptist Church member against werewolves? I don't know. But, like, there's just these little moments where you have a large dog named Sirius Black. Wow. How clever, Auntie Jo. Just so clever. It was exhausting. I am exhausted.
So one of the things we always like to ask on our podcast is if we had to read this in school.
Yes.
Amanda, did you have to read this in school?
No, I went to a Catholic school. But as I mentioned before, Harry Potter is actually the reason I took Latin. My Latin teacher, Mr. Riley, he put up a poster in 7th grade that said, want to learn what language Harry Potter speaks. And he said it was Latin, which is a lie. It's not technically Latin. The spells are kind of in Latin. Also some Greek. So, Mr. Riley, I understand that you lied to me.
He was a
okay.
Slytherin.
Hmm?
He he was a Slytherin and he was manipulating the facts so that you would join his cause.
I would not be shocked. So I'm okay that you lied to me, because it led me on a journey that actually ended up with me being in Italy and doing the thing that every Latin student is supposed to do, which is to be able to go to the Colosseum and be able to read the signs, and then you die happily. But I remember like seeing the movie in theaters and being like, oh man, his name is Lupin, he's probably a werewolf, and like clocking that immediately. Because I think at that time I hadn't read the book because I was lazy. But I was like, I know enough Latin to know this means wolf shit. So
I was on vacation and somebody had given me the first book, and I remember powering through it because we didn't have to read it for school, because at this point in time everybody was like, this is witchcraft, it needs to be banned. Not in my school. I went to school in California, nobody gave a crap. But I'm sitting there reading it, finish the first book in the airport, and look at my mom and I say, I need the second book. And she goes, well, when we get to Virginia, we'll take a look at a Barnes & Noble or something. She bought me the second and third book because she knew I was going to power through the second one within a matter of like a day. And she's like, I don't want to hear her whining about it. So here's the third one too. And I remember getting to the part with Lupin and being like, that's just like a reference to the, what is it? This is not species. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Like genus, I guess it is. And going, wasn't that wolf? That's something to do with wolf, because it's like Lupus domesticus or something like that.
Canis lupus.
Canis lupus, there we go. And
Said that way too quickly.
Sorry, it's Canis domesticus, it's just dog. Okay. So I'm going, I know this. Why do I know this? And then me being like, I wonder if he's a werewolf. So like the same thing. Like, wait a minute, give it some time. And then like getting to see the movies as they came out was amazing. I mean, I think I went to at least 2 or 3 dressed up.
I went to 1 or 2 dressed up.
I hosted 2 Barnes & Noble Harry Potter parties, one where I was dressed up as Hermione and I was dating a guy who dressed up like Remus Lupin, which was dirty. And then the next
But I'm kind of here for it.
He's a creeper, but whatever.
Never mind.
We're not together anymore. That's fine. He was a youth pastor, if that tells you anything.
I don't support that.
Moving past, the next time I did a Harry Potter party, he was Voldemort, and I was Bellatrix Lestrange. And I got to run around screaming, I killed Sirius Black.
I'm somehow more uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, I think that was a better metaphor for my first serious engaged relationship. Moving on.
Feverish backpedaling.
So
we didn't really have any resources.
No.
Well, we had the differences.
This is mostly coming out of our own heads.
Yes.
I did a little bit of a refresher with Wikipedia in regards to J.K. Rowling's backstory. LeakyCauldron.org is incredible. They're one of my favorite groups. I'm sad LeakyCon is not a thing right now because of the pandemic.
There's a pandemic.
Hopefully there'll be an online one. I'll go. And then there's also Pottermore, which
is great.
You want articles on backstory and stuff like that, it's a great place to go. It's kind of like the living, breathing backworks of Tolkien with the things that his kids publish later, except it's Rowling anyway.
Yeah, it's your Silmarillion for Harry Potter.
So if this is the first time you've ever heard of us or listened to us, we definitely appreciate you listening in.
Yes, thank you.
We are going to be answering questions in the chat.
Yeah, in chat. We'll be around answering questions if you have any. You'll also be able to see on the screen probably some of our social media handles where you can find us. This is typically where we tell you if you'd like to suggest a book for the podcast or have a funny story about your English class or literature. Feel free to email us at unfortunatelyrequiredreading@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to contribute to our Wine and Cheese Fund, please consider sponsoring your 2 favorite drunk literary Slytherins at anchor.fm/unfortunatelyrequiredreading.
You can find us all over social media. We're relatively responsive.
Relatively?
Yeah. Well, you respond on the Twitter, I respond on the Instagram and the Facebook.
We split Facebook, I think.
We do split Facebook.
Yes.
So we're definitely around. If you are like me and you just like, I don't have time to dig through and find all your social media, you can find everything at unfortunatelyrequiredreading.com.
Yep, that's our central hub for where you can find everything. But we'll be around answering some questions, and I hope you guys had fun. And as we close every show, now go read a book.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.